saying it will take, I don't know how long. Right. Thank you very much for coming. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for us also to receive you this afternoon. First time the entire governing board and the monetary policy board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, beyond our official sort of legal sort of responsibilities of you presenting certain reports to us and we asking you for various types of information. This is more of a sort of getting to know and also to understand what your plans are, how we can help the central bank do the job to the best of your abilities also. That we will that we will keep for various members to interpret later. But would you be so kind to introduce yourselves for the record, please, starting with the governor?
I'm Nandalal Virasinghe, Governor, Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
Appointed member, Governing Board and Monetary Policy Board.
Dushni Verakon, appointed member, Monetary Policy Board.
Yvette Fernandez, Senior Deputy Governor, Member of the Monetary Policy Board.
Nelumani Dawlagala, Deputy Governor, Member of the Monetary Policy Board.
Anushka Vijayasinghe, appointed member of the Governing Board and the Monetary Policy Board.
Priyanka Dunusinghe, appointed member, Monetary Policy Board.
PKG Harsha, Assistant Governor, Central Bank.
Nadi Pereira, Deputy Director, Legal Department.
Sujita Jagajeevan, Director of Economic Research.
That is a new appointment. When did you get appointed? Yesterday. Congratulations. Round of applause to the new director of this Economic Research Department.
It looks very promising.
Obviously, because they learned the trade under us. Yes. First job was working with us, no? See?
Yeah, basically, Dr. Harsha was promoted as Assistant Governor, so she is taking over.
Congratulations, Dr. Harsha. And who else from here?
Here we have, we promoted 6 directors as Assistant Governors from Monday this week. So we will issue a press statement, so we are still not announced formally, but Governing Board had the interview and process, and then they were promoted. We had vacancies for about 6. And in fact, Dr. Harishandra will be going to the IMF as alternate executive director. Dr. Chandranath is coming back as assistant governor. He is also promoted.
So he also got promoted.
Yeah, he's good.
That's good.
And also 2 members is OCs, OCs. So I think Dr. Ravirat Nayak and Vishko Indasamy.
Yeah, we got a letter from Mr. Vishko Indasamy. We did not receive a letter from Dr. Ravirat Nayak. We've noted that. Okay, so so let's go. You have a presentation for us?
Director of Research will make a presentation, a brief on the monetary policy process, on the new Central Bank Act and how we do it. So then we can have a discussion.
Good afternoon to all the respective members. Let me give you a brief overview of the monetary policy process as per the requirement under the new Central Bank Act.
Just on a housekeeping matter, we can take about an hour for the whole discussion.
Okay.
Right,
so I will make it short.
I mean, depending.
Sure.
I just want to let you know.
Okay. And practically how it's happening at the central bank. So let me start with the 2 monetary board, the board arrangements at the central bank. We have under the new Central Bank Act, we have 2 decision-making boards. One is the governing board and the other one is the monetary policy board. The governing board, both boards are chaired by the governor, and the governing board has 7 members with a quorum of 5 members. And there is a parallel board with the same level of responsibilities, specially designated for monetary policy making purposes. So this has all the members from the governing board. Additionally, 2 deputy governors, the 1 deputy governor in charge of price stability, and the other deputy governor in charge of financial system stability. And there are two appointed members who are the specialists in economics and finance. So with this, we have 11 members representing Monetary Policy Board.
Just one moment. So, Governor, we have 2 more vacancies, or those 2 vacancies were...
We had 2 more vacancies, and when I checked from the Parliament, I understand Constitutional Council has approved 2 suggested names sent by the President. Now, I think we are waiting for the confirmation from the Secretary of the President.
Yeah, so we know who the 2 are. I don't know whether it is public yet or
It's not public yet,
Okay, right.
but I think Parliament knows.
Yes, yes. Then the 2 external experts in economics or finance.
Dushni
Dr. Dushni Veerakorn
and Professor Priyanka
Professor
from the University of
Priyanka
Colombo.
Dunasinghe from Colombo University. So then once the 2 are appointed, then the governing board is also complete. The 11-member monetary policy board is also complete.
Yes, it will be complete.
When do you expect the 2 appointments to be made?
I hope that earlier the better, because we are very tight. It's only the quorum is now 5 members, so it's difficult to, even someone is abroad, we have to have online meetings, so it's difficult. And also some of the board subcommittees, we need members to be appointed. I think we are hoping at least within this week we will get the letter so that they can start from at least next board.
Why the delay? If there is a delay?
I think this, I was told the Constitutional Council approved only last week.
Okay.
Then communication has to go to the Secretariat and then.
Okay.
This is the governance and organizational structure of the monetary policy making. Then the Act requires that the Monetary Policy Board should meet at least once in 2 months. And every year, a schedule of the meetings have to be published by the central bank before the first meeting of the year. And this schedule can be adjusted when it's required under exceptional circumstances. So with this, we have already published the calendar for this year.
In your presentation, will it be just verbally possible for you to say the feature that you show is as a result of the new Act or an improvement of the Act? Because we don't know which, we are really trying to find out after the new Act coming in, how much we have been able to adjust ourselves, right?
Okay.
So whatever you're saying,
Sure.
if you can tell us, that would be helpful to us.
So the first change is in the governance and the organization structure itself. We had only one board, monetary board,
Exactly.
doing all the decision making, including the monetary policy. And that monetary board had a membership from the government. Secretary to the Treasury was a member. Now with this new arrangement, there is a designated board for monetary policy making purposes, and without any representation from the government in both boards. So this is one key feature in the new Act.
Yeah, so this is the ideological issue now, honorable member, that we've been fighting, and people like myself have been supporting for the last 25 years to change this. That, you know, there should be,
Prevent fiscal overbalance.
Fiscal, yeah.
No, direct political influences. We just didn't want political influences.
Fiscal dominance over monetary policy. Yes, please go ahead.
And there are changes in this the number of the meetings also. So we used to have 8 meetings. We initially had 12 meetings, then that was reduced to 8 meetings. Now with this new arrangement, the Monetary Policy Board is expected to meet at least once in 2 months. So the cycles also have been reduced to 6 per year. And we have already published this calendar. We have been publishing this calendar, advanced release calendar, for several years. So there is no major improvement in that. But there.
This is the minimum,
Exactly. Yeah. These are the scheduled announcement dates, but there can be additional.
That's right.
If it is warranted. And we have the Monetary Policy Board meetings, and the next day there will be Monetary Policy press release followed by press conference.
Do you by any chance have a printed copy of your, no, not this, your Monetary Policy Committee meeting minutes, not minutes, the press release?
Today's.
Do you have one? Yesterday's press release?
Today's press release.
Today's press release? Could we have some copies of that, please? Okay, right. Please go ahead.
So in addition to that, according to the new act, we have a requirement to publish a monetary policy report. It's a biannual report. So we are targeting February 15th and August 15th. So based on the today's announcement, we will be preparing a monetary policy report and publish it on the 15th of February. So this is a requirement, and this is to ensure that we are more transparent on our monetary policy making, and we are communicating more to the general public, including the projections, the risk to the projections, the reasons for the forecast failures, and all these will be discussed in the monetary policy report. We already published the first monetary policy report in July last year.
That is on the 15th of February, you said?
This time we will be publishing on the 15th of February.
Do you submit it to the parliament, or what is
There's no requirement. This is issued to the public. Means it's a published report. Anyone can see it. Parliament requirement is that annual report, no?
Annually, I want to check under the new law. Yeah, so that's what I'm checking. Just check on this in the act, kindly. Correct. We will come back to that. Please go ahead.
And this is a monetary policy making process happening at the central bank. So there are several stages. So we call this the entire the 4 stages as cycles, MPC cycles usually. It starts with the staff level meetings. Usually the officers from several departments meet at the technical level and discuss about the developments, data, and the near-term projections on real sector, inflation, monetary sector, external sector, fiscal sector, and the financial sector. So these are at length discussed. Usually it goes for 1 or 2 days. And with that input, there will be a preliminary projection, medium-term projection. And the preliminary outcomes are presented at the technical level among the staff, that is at the second staff level meeting. So the first layer is like technical level meetings at the staff level. Then we have the second level, that is the monetary policy committee meeting. We have an internal setup within the central bank. So we have a committee called Monetary Policy Committee that is headed by Governor, and both DGs and AGs in charge of price stability and financial system stability are members, and also the departments coming under these price stability cluster are members of the Monetary Policy Committee. So at tier 1 level, there will be a streamlined version of the technical discussions will happen, and all Monetary Policy Board members are invited as observers to get a chance to hear the discussion on the recent developments and the projections and all at the early stages before they meet for making decisions. So usually there is around 2 to 3 days gap between the tier 1 and the final Monetary Policy Board meetings. So they have a chance to listen to the technical level discussions, and they can clarify if they want any more analysis to be done. They can request the staff to work on that, and if they want any additional information also, that can be facilitated at this stage. On the same day, we have the tier 2 level, that is a policy level discussion. Only the MPC members meet, and there will be a closed door discussion on the developments, and MPC come up with the recommendations. And that recommendation goes to the Monetary Policy Board.
So, with the permission of the chair. The tier 1 and tier 2. So what is the difference between the participation? That first one, so like observers, the monetary policy board members can be there.
In the tier 1, all the Monetary Policy Board members are there as observers. In the tier 2, Monetary Policy Board members are not there.
Okay.
It's only that MPC members are meeting.
For tier 2?
Internal,
okay.
Internal, and MPC comes up with the recommendation. And that recommendation is presented to the Monetary Policy Board along with further developments and medium-term projections and judgments and all. So that is happening at the third stage. And the members discuss about the recommendation from the MPC as well as other developments, and they can ask for more clarification from Director of Economic Research. Then at the Monetary Policy Board meeting, the decision is made. And usually the next day of that meeting day, at 7:30 in the morning, there will be press release. Sharp at 7:30, we release the press release. And on the same day, we have the press conference attended by media, and that is live stream on our social media pages. And in addition to that, we have this biannual monetary policy report in February and August. Yeah.
Just to clarification as a footnote, if you wish, I see there is a, I am no economist, I confess, but I see at least as a institutional reform stages taken very good positive steps. But one of the constant complaints that we get and I get is that consultative with stakeholders. Now this seems to be again a totally closed door, indoor, theoretical people who agree and discuss. Of course, policies are made by intellectuals, right? That's true. But the constant agitation against what we have is that Chamber of Commerce, professional bodies, academia, other trade unions, trade bodies are not being consulted at all when these decisions are made. So I don't know whether there is any, before you start even the first staff level, right? Is there any possibility, and I recommend, Chair, that you take time. I don't know how frequent, how often you can do that, but this agitation, either true or false, had to be addressed and stopped. And I think if it is true that the stakeholders of this country, medium-level businessmen, other OPA bodies, chartered accountant, give them a chance to tell what they think. You may not take that, because they come from a particular perspective where you are given a overall umbrella, universal perspective of state of Sri Lanka's economy. A tile company guy may only be talk about tile industry, but then listening to them will be authenticate what you are trying to do. And I would think it's a good way of building a certain PR. Even before the first level, you just have, not just, you have genuine listening consultation is there.
Sorry sir, this that setup is there and it's not included in this process. We have a committee called Stakeholder Engagement Committee. We have members selected from all.
Okay, where does it come from? Where does it fit into this map?
They usually meet on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
So in between two cycles they meet.
Yeah, so
and
that,
we get their
you see, I am a student of political science.
Exactly.
I am interested in democratic process of what we do. So that had to be, because finally what we are saying is the central bank has become responsible to the citizen, and we have done that here.
Yeah.
So that I think somewhere in your diagram had to be mentioned.
And also there is also this statistics department does a lot of surveys.
Okay.
They engage with industry level people.
Yeah.
And we get inputs from those as well,
Sure.
and those are discussed at the staff level meetings.
Yes. Thank you.
And according to this new act, there is a requirement that there should be an agreement between the government and the central bank on the target to be achieved by the central bank. These targets are usually reviewed every 3 years or as and when it's necessary in an exceptional circumstances. So in line with this, we have made an agreement in October. Once this act has been passed, on the 3rd of October, there has been an agreement signed and it has been gazetted. And according to this agreement, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka aims to achieve the inflation target of 5%. This is a quarterly average inflation target. And there's a requirement under section 26, subsection 5, about the target misses. How do you define the target misses? For that purposes, this is quantified like if the quarterly inflation is missed within the margin of plus or minus 2% from the 5% level consecutively for 2 quarters, then that is considered a target miss. And there are consequences. The central bank is expected to submit a report to the parliament through the minister stating the reasons for the failure of meeting the target, the remedial actions already taken by the central bank, and the time taken to bring back inflation within the targeted level.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you, Governor, on this. Now, the Parliament is not at all part of this decision, because you make the decision with the government and you have already done so 5% plus or minus 2 percentage points, and then you have gazetted it. Now normally what happens, Honorable Rauf Hakim, to get your thoughts also, is when something is gazetted, it has to come to Parliament and Parliament has to approve it. Depending on under which act a gazette is published, the time that one has to get it approved in Parliament may differ. Sometimes it may be as soon as possible, sometimes it may be within 90 days, etc. So I would like to know under which act. I guess it is under the Central Bank's Act, and whether there is any requirement, as in every other act, for when a gazette is published, that it must be approved in Parliament. So that's my first question.
That depends on what is that particular instrument is. So this is a regulation, not a regulation. If it is a regulation, it has to come to the Parliament, but this is not a regulation.
What is it then?
It's a determination. That is how. Yeah.
No, the question is related to what you just said. You said there are consequences.
Yeah.
Right. So which means if the target is not met, there are certain consequences. Well, those consequences are not necessarily important, but there are. Now, in that case, that becomes enforceable. Right? For something to be enforceable, it has to be some sort of quote unquote legally binding thing. So wait. Correct. So directive. Who is? No, it is not the minister. No, they have to submit to Parliament.
Through minister.
Minister.
No, through the minister. Always it is not the official. No, officials don't come into Parliament. It is on behalf of the central bank. The minister in charge of the central bank will present to Parliament. It is presented to Parliament, right? Which means it to the legislature.
All directives don't have to come to
Right.
Parliament.
So the question is here: if the legislature had nothing to do with the original recommendation, regulation, directive, whatever you want to call it, then my question is, what does the second step flow from? To have consequences that will be determined by Parliament, right? I mean, how does it? What is the basis?
No, I stand to be corrected because there's a senior parliamentarian here, also Minister of Justice and practicing lawyer. I think directives don't have to come to Parliament, as I understand it.
That is correct. Directives don't have to come to Parliament.
So if
neither
a
do
directive,
rules.
By the cabinet, and then it gets published. That is the process. The requirement is that. So that is why we had to follow that.
See, then if that directive is not met, I'm also asking because my knowledge in this field is limited. If it is a directive given by the minister, then you are answerable to the minister. The directive was given by the minister. In this case, you say you are answerable to Parliament. So if you are answerable to Parliament, we have not approved it. The Parliament has not approved the 5% inflation target. So, 1 minute, Mr. Governor. So, my question, I guess it is clear now. I can't see the sort of the two sides of this equation.
Here, I think at the Supreme Court, when discussing this thing, this all were discussed. I think the purpose of reporting to the Parliament is under accountability provision. So, Central Bank has been given the mandate to deliver this objective. If they fail, then we are accountable to the public, to the Parliament, and that's why accountability is not because of the Parliament imposed this rule. That's why we have to report back. it's accountability purposes. This is the interpretation of the even Supreme Court, and there was a discussion at the when someone went to the Supreme Court and challenges this bill. There was an interpretation and debate whether this setting the inflation target. There was a debate that whether the earlier drafting was in consultation with the central bank, minister, and in agreement with the minister. Then the question came, if minister doesn't agree, where does it go? Then went beyond the minister and beyond the authority to the cabinet as executive authority. So then there was a discussion whether this should be get the approval of the parliament. Then Supreme Court determination was that it was too much for that to be set by the parliament, and this idea was that it is sufficient the executive to override any disagreement. Then executive will make the decide the mandates. If we fail, we are accountable not only the executive, to the parliament and to the public. That is accountability provision. That's why we have to report back and explain the reasons, explanations. Are given is not there's no provision for the parliament taking action against central bank. It's only explanation we have to provide, and we have to tell the public and the parliament how we're going to bring it back. We're binding ourselves to the parliament, so there's a violation, deviation, then we exactly.
No, but I agree, that's fine. Now, 80.2A of the Act, the governor of the central bank, members of the governing board and monetary policy board are every deputy governor of the central bank shall, at the request of the parliament, be heard by the parliament or any of its committees once in every 4 months regarding the functions of the central bank. So I guess it's there. It gives the parliament the power. All matters. So inflation now actually the fundamental matter is inflation. That's what it is, right? There's nothing else. It is the stability of the price level and the financial market. Those are the two things that they are supposed to do. So by and large, their only job is to ensure inflation stays at 5% plus or minus 2 percentage points. Then it also says,
if the epicentric issue had been settled, then we expect others to be falling in line.
But also the Act says earlier on that notwithstanding that, they have to be mindful of the government's objectives of growth and all of that. So that is also there. But the second point under 3 is, within a period of 4 months after the close of each financial year, publish lay before Parliament through the minister report approved by the governing board. So that must be the annual report of the central bank. So those are the things that are there.
Also, Honorable Chairman, there's I think there are clear provisions accountability to the parliament, but we don't see a kind of established mechanism for us to comply with this first 1 and 2 this thing. For example, 1 is central bank shall once in every 6 months and such times deems necessary inform the public. That's an inflation report. That's 2A. Governor central bank or members at the request of the parliament be heard by the parliament any other committee once in every 4 months regarding the functions. So that is the onerous is to the parliament actually. Parliament will have to call us once in 4 months.
This committee.
This is where I think we interpret, because there is no other. I don't know to which committee we have to report. We thought this is a committee that
will call.
So that you have a kind of obligation. Once in 4 months you have to summon us and get
And then the chairman this morning, if you all, I don't know whether they had a chance to, he presented the last quarter report to the parliament in the morning. So likewise, when this committee will invite you all to present what you all have done, and then chairperson will take it to the parliament the same day or the following day. That's the process that I've been following so far.
I mean, this committee's responsibilities are, there shall be a committee to be designated, the Committee on Public Finance, Construction, etc., etc. It shall be the duty of the Committee of the Public Finance to examine A, collection of revenue, B, payment from the consolidated fund, 3, utilization of public funds, D, application of public funds, E, the recession of appropriations contained in the Appropriation Act for the current year, transfer of appropriations and unexpected balances, F, implementation of Appropriation Act, G, public debt and debt service, H, report and statement under the Fiscal Management Responsibilities Act. H. Reports and statements under the FMRA. I. Bills, motions, resolutions and orders defined under Article 152 of the Constitution. What does that mean? Article 152 of the Constitution. Bills, motions, resolutions. The Parliament, any committee or a minister may also refer any matter to the Committee on Public Finance for its consideration and response. The committee shall from time to time report to Parliament the issues. 5. The committee shall present before the commencement to reports. 6. The Committee on Public Finance, once tabled in Parliament, shall be referred to the Ministry of Finance. 7. Committee on Public Finance may have the power to summon persons and call papers. Records shall submit to Parliament report containing observations together with minutes of evidence taken before them. 8 is quorum. So this gives broad powers, but generally it talks about the fiscal side, not the monetary side.
Yeah, not the monetary side.
Correct. That's what you're going to say.
Yeah, that's what I think. This is where we never had a committee appointed to look into central bank matters. Monetary policy is just basically monetary policy will have to be independent. That's a fundamental reason. And now because Act says we have to report, then I think one way is to when I listen to all these things, all are public finance matters, fiscal policy matters.
Correct.
There's nothing on monetary policy.
Correct.
Although you call us and we are giving those explanations.
Correct.
But I don't see any other committee. I have no understanding. I don't see any specific committee that we have to report.
Yeah.
So that's where if you can revise the mandate and can include that part, because this Central Bank Act has given the requirement for the Parliament, there has to be a mechanism for us to come and report one of the committees. Otherwise, it's not very clear here.
Precisely. I think we should take that up. And see, all this time, the Secretary of the Treasury was a member of the Central Bank. So through that we were able to do this. Now, because he is no longer there, then you all are just hanging. So I think we should seek whoever becomes the chairman of this committee to be able to summon the central bank based on the Act 80, Section 82A, as the sort of the face of Parliament, where the interaction happens between Parliament committee and the central bank.
Also to further expand. Parliamentary sessions are over, so the committees are going to be dissolved and reappointed and all that will happen. We need to write that very particularly at this stage and this meeting. The central bank and the monetary body agreed upon. Otherwise, a new central bank governor can say, I don't want to come to you because you have no mandate to call us.
No, this we
so
have.
Therefore, we have to you have a reporting body, but this committee doesn't have a mandate to call you and ask. We can only ask public finances, not on monetary policies. No. So one person, whatever the ideology they operate.
Just one moment,
therefore,
please.
I would say to take their willingness.
One more before you finish, because 82A says that at the request of Parliament, be heard by Parliament. Or any of its committees once every 4 months. So while it is restrictive to fiscal policy, it provides through this act for the Parliament committee to question the governor and the board on monetary policy. So that is given here. It is available. That focal point has to be the Committee on Public Finance. It has to be, but I think because the standing orders have not been adjusted after the act came in. So I think we should reiterate that. Yeah, we should reiterate, and we will, unless you have any objections.
No, I think we would like to have a proper established mechanism, because its law requires us to report.
Yes.
But there's no proper established mechanism for us to whom we write. If you want to report something to the Parliament. So it's not clear here.
So governors, since this committee has a quorum now, and you all have the full body, let us agree until we find a further better way of doing that. The agreement at this committee meeting is that you all are willing to come, and you are also, the COF, though is only public finance, also will be able to invite you to present your cases. I mean, that
so they have no objection, we can do that.
We can do that.
Correct, we will do that.
To get an opinion from them, huh?
Yeah. We will do that.
No,
We
no,
will
no.
do that. We will send
We
it to
know
the speaker.
right now we are trying to do, doctor, is what we don't have, we are trying to establish. So when you want to improve that, you can improve that.
No, we will get
Improve
internal.
කරන්න.
No, because the standing order will have to be adjusted. Amended. So standing order has to be amended, but until such time we
Such
can
time
have
we'll agree on
understanding.
this.
Some practical arrangement, but please
Yeah, we will get the standing order amended, so make
amended
sure.
and plus this business committee or the committee of selection, no doubt. It's kind of approval from
We are doing that.
that is our recommendation.
Kada.
They can approve it on.
Yeah, we can do that. Please go ahead.
So far, we discussed about the process being followed at the central bank in the monetary policy formulation process. Let me briefly discuss about the monetary policy stance of the central bank, which has been adopted in the recent times. After unprecedented tightening of monetary policy in 2022, following the economic crisis, until early 2023, in order to stabilize the macroeconomic conditions, the central bank began loosening monetary policy since June 2023. So there were several monetary policy decisions on the subsequent monetary policy cycles. So with these altogether, since June 2023, the policy interest rates have been reduced by 6.5 percentage points. On the November monetary policy cycle, considering the space available for other market interest rates to adjust, and also the substantial policy loosening already happened in latter part of 2023, Central Bank informed the market and the public that the monetary policy easing will be paused in the near term until there are further developments. So with these, based on the current developments and the risk and everything, we assess that based on the cycle just concluded in January, over the medium term, headline inflation is expected to gradually stabilize around the targeted level of 5%. We see that there are some near-term risks to the inflation that is coming from the adjustment to the VAT and the removal of exemptions to VAT, as well as the recent the weather-related disturbances to food supply. But we think that these are one-off adjustment, and these effects will dissipate in the near term. So that won't change the medium-term outlook of the inflation. So there are both upside and downside risks to this inflation outlook. So in case if the second round effect of this VAT adjustment are higher, there could be some upside pressures. And also with this higher cost of living and the higher price levels, there could be further pressure on wage increases. And if that materialize on a broad basis, there could be some upside pressures. And also there could be possibility of repeated adverse weather conditions that is affecting the food supply and increasing the food inflation. And also there are a lot of uncertainties on the global market on commodity prices, especially the fuel-based, energy-based prices. Those are the major upside risk to inflation outlook.
So to what extent are you saying that inflation is quote-unquote supply push in this situation as opposed to demand pull? Because you're talking about the risks associated with increases in taxes and weather-related matters.
Yeah.
To what extent do those impact on inflation?
What we have observed, sir, after 5 consecutive months of deflation on food inflation, last month food inflation has recorded a positive inflation. That is mainly because of this rain-related disturbances to food supply. So we expect that will continue for the next few months.
Are these temporary?
We expect that to be temporary. So things will settle. So in the historically also what we have observed is when there is floods related disturbances to food supply, that has been transitory. But drought related food supply disruptions have been a little bit persistent. So we expect this to be transitory and things will get improved.
Is there a El Nino impact this year?
That is the main reason for this high rainfalls that we observed.
No, I mean this year, meaning 24 is there some
2024 drought conditions, yeah. Yeah.
Rain. So El Nino 24?
Drought conditions
Still
are expected.
no this thing. Last year they had predicted but no effect here in Sri Lanka. But other part of the world, especially the Indian Ocean and Indonesia, there were problems. Still no indication from the international, that meteorology.
Yeah, because what you just mentioned is sort of taxes and all those are transitory, but weather-related is persistent. So if you are expecting some sort of weather-related incident, then the risk of holding your target at 5% might be at some sort of risk, Governor?
Yeah, I think that's also transitory or persistent, depends on the how much of damage that could cause because of the climate events. For example, now recent floods, I think, did not last for too long. I think the Maha season expected to be much better supply side. That's why we think it would be transitory. But if there's a longer drought, and if that's going to affect kind of a supply side, essentially the food production, that could have a little longer term impact. So that's where I think right now what we see even in the market, the sharp rises in prices because of the weather related disturbances on supply chain. Once that goes away, we are seeing the price adjusting sooner. So then is that, and also with the Maha harvest coming back, I think a sufficient time that to be transitory. But the drought is something that can have a longer, unless if there's a flood and it has damaged a large part of, say, paddy production, then obviously that will have impact on such rice production and prices, but we don't see it right now. Still, we don't expect that in this season.
What would be the effect of this taxes and wage hikes? Because the finance ministry, it has been reported here that around 2.5% increase in inflation because of the VAT increase.
Yeah, this is correct.
True,
I think
what is your calculation?
This is our calculation that they have reported. Basically, we worked out the impact of 18% VAT and exemptions on the current level of prices is 2.9%, no?
2.6%. What about the wage hike?
Wage hikes is not going to have wage hikes comes usually from demand side. But we see the recent increase in public sector wages are not necessarily sufficient to for people to have more demand, because prices have gone down much higher. So that we don't expect that to create additional demand in terms of purchasing power and their disposable income. So,
with Chairman's permission, before you go in, before this minister changed the topic, or we are still on weather. Now, this is a trans-border issue, right? What are the other agencies that we work so that we are updated online on time, and that they're reliable agencies that were, because Sri Lanka's weather is not Sri Lanka weather alone. No? So what are the other key agencies that you, either the central bank of other agents countries, or is it, how do we, because you all don't have, our national weather forecast is, I think I'm still searching for an English word to use for them, with all respect to them. But they came here and said 19 stations, 14 are batteries not working. So that kind of answer. But if you are saying this is, which is a trans-border, transnational issue, don't you think that we need agencies that you can rely on, that we can do fairly constructive, predictable forecasts?
This is something even yesterday, Monetary Policy Board, in the discussion, we had a serious discussion on this. Challenge here is that, is there any local or international agency which can predict a kind of a more reliable weather for a longer period? I think that's a challenge, but still we are looking at some international agencies, say that, I mean, if you go to the internet, you can find a lot of other agencies who are predicting for weather, but I mean, it's difficult for us to rely then.
Governor, since I do not know this, I'm just only a member of the
Meteorological department actually getting information from US, Japan and Australia. They are the best,
so they will give data.
They will give data.
But they don't have an economic forecast?
No, not economic forecast,
so,
the weather forecast.
So what I'm asking is, at least do you not think, as a member of this committee and a student of social affairs, that at least in the regional central banks, don't they have a working mechanism? Because floods in Bangladesh, floods in Haryana, is also affecting us. They will be also interested in. No? So do you not think that we should at least, if there's nothing like that, we knew that that kind of thing, this Pearl Express ship was sunk, then only we knew that we don't have maritime laws. So like that, this may be an eye-opener for us to find out whether we can work with international regional agencies so that we could have a kind of a reliable forecast what we are going to do. Because all our planning will be taken away in 2 weeks, 3 weeks time if there is nothing prepared for that. No?
I think while I agree that central bank should have that information, I think the Department of Agriculture should get this.
Data is there. Data is there. Very
Yes,
accurate,
please go
very
ahead. Please
reliable
go ahead.
data. The unpredictable.
So just one moment. Sorry. Governor, you said the impact on the taxes was what, 2.9%? 2.6% on inflation, 2.6 percentage points.
So the inflation increased from, so otherwise it would have been in our target range of 5%.
You mean like now? Now or in
January.
Expectation?
In January.
From January.
From January for how long?
So until, this is a year on year, so these price increases will last till next January. So this impact will be there throughout the year.
Throughout the year it will sort of reduce? Or it's going to be 2.6% for every month?
I think that here, if you take out this, if that didn't happen, still we had the inflation forecast of January 5%, then coming down to 3%, 2%, going back to 5%. Like it's not a fixed line.
Yes.
So what will happen? This fixed line will be shifted by 2.6% up.
In average?
Yeah, on average.
Moving a belt of 2%, 2.56. Sorry, that's what
so that will disappear. The full impact will be gone only after 12 months. So year-on-year inflation, no.
Yeah.
So price will go up to that level. It will remain
that will move in the belt of
level
12.26.
for longer period. But then impact on the inflation is year-on-year basis.
So the shock will disappear after what, 12 months?
12 months.
No, we go on to the debt restructure.
No, debt restructure we are not, we revised that. Yeah, we revised that. Debt restructure we are not going to.
So the lenders are very interested in to know when you are going to pay them back, right?
But we are summoning the treasury people for that next week. He will join us. He will join us. We revise that. Okay, please go ahead.
So let me discuss about the interest rate developments in the market. The central bank believes that there are still space available for market interest rates to adjust, especially the market lending rates and the government securities market, considering the recent monetary policy easing happened in the latter part of 2023. And also we observe the risk premia attached to the government securities market is declining. So in line with that, we expect the government securities yields also to get adjusted downwards.
So this is the question no, everyone is asking, Governor. Interest rates are high. Businesses are, getting, negatively impacted. SMEs are unable to pay. They are executing their mortgages. Parat execution is taking place. So tell us, please, your transmission mechanism and all that taking into consideration, and you didn't adjust the policy rates today, you kept it as they were last month because you are, I guess, worried about inflation, it's hitting your ceiling almost. What do you really expect interest rates to be in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, and why are you making those, on what basis are you making those assumptions?
So good. I think that's an important monetary policy question. I think if you can, Sujita, show that the loan inflation chart, the monetary policy easing cycle, sir. I don't see it. Okay, can they see?
Yeah, we can see.
Right. If you look at these monetary policy cycles, this is from 2001 onwards. So whenever inflation was going up, central bank has been tightening and let the market rates to go up, and then easing cycle it has been coming down. But if you compare this starting from 2007-8, the cycle, tightening cycle, and another 2 cycles, this latest cycle has a very short adjustment process. For example, usually when rates go up, bringing down is a very difficult thing. It takes a longer period. All the other cycles, it has taken 4, 6, 8 quarters, whereas this cycle, as a result, we have been able to bring it down because we had a shock therapy at the beginning, and also at the other side also we able to bring down the inflation very fast, and as a result, we have been pushing rates to come down. But still, if you look at the policy rates and the market rates, here still there is I don't see a clear one can see clearly if you look at more carefully. There's still a gap between our policy rates and market rates, that still there is a space for the market rates to adjust in line with our policy rates. So when looking at the phase of adjustment, what we think, this time adjustment should be faster than what we saw even earlier cycles. That's why we think, and one of the reasons why that is not coming down is compared to other cycles, whereas benchmark rates has been government securities yield rates. But this time, if you notice here, AWPLR, prime lending rate for commercial banks lending prime customers is now lower than the benchmark rate of even 3 months, 1 year bill rates. That's usually the other side. In the past is the benchmark is lowest, closer one is the policy rates to yield rates, government securities, then market rates. But I think this is one way we have been able to push the market rates to down even below government security yield rates. But because of the uncertainty on the government financing, debt restructuring, those rates are not coming, did not come as fast as we thought. Although it has come down, even today auction, 3 months bill rate came down 58 basis points. There is a sharp adjustment taking place. With that, we think this rates will come to a normal kind of a monetary policy, kind of a normal cycle where we have policy rate around between 9 to 10%, 9.5, and prime lending rate should be close to 10%. And then with the risk premium, different customers, SMEs will have some adding premium. So I think between single digit to 12-13% medium to long term rates is that we are pushing. And if we see some space, we might relax policy rates also for that will help for the downward adjustment. I think looking at what is happening, lending rates, this is lending rates. These are deposit rates also been adjusted, and there are two reasons. One is the uncertainty on the debt restructuring. The government yield rates are not moving in line with policy rates. Second part is some of the concerns on the still not completed foreign currency debt restructuring of some of the commercial banks. So as a result, they have been much cautious in bringing down their rates. So that's the two, and once we address those two parts, I think we will come back to normal multiple stance where our policy rate, if it is say 8.5%, there should definitely be prime lending single digit, and then based on that 10, 12, 13% normal circumstances, people should be able to borrow. That's a reasonable rate given inflation is 5%. So if we maintain inflation of 5%, our policy rate broadly can be 7.5 or with 2.5% policy rates, and there can be single digit rates. So that we need some time to move into that process. We hope that we want to move there fast. With this distortion address, I think we can move faster.
So what you're saying is that what you see currently is a bit of a distortion that John Keels is borrowing at less cost than the government of Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
that could be the perceived risk of connected to the restructure.
Exactly.
So once the restructure is completed, you believe that the policy rates would be actually below, or the treasury bill rates will be below.
Government should be the highest rating now. Correct. So they should be able to borrow at the
so
lowest
you're looking at a real interest rate of about what, 4%? Is that what you're looking at?
No, I think under normal circumstances, inflation of 5%, policy rate 7.5, like is under normal circumstances, it's a standard way of looking at 2.5%, 3% real policy. That will encourage savers also.
That is what I'm saying on the other side, for the
other sides also. So you have to compensate for inflation for the people who are saving money.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
And as I already informed that we will be publishing the monetary policy report on the 15th of February. I think these all are the key highlights that we want to.
Thank you for that presentation. We'll open the floor for members to, seek clarifications, make comments, ask questions.
I, on behalf of the committee and others, at the beginning, I think as a member of this committee, I saw there were negotiating for harmony between the committee and the central bank and the monetary. Today, I think the beginning of this year, we see there is a lot of as practical as well as intellectual input, and there's a rhythm that is working together. I think for this country's citizens, we need to do that continuation. We may ask you to come, ask some hard questions. It's not because of anything, because we are responsible. At least myself and few others in this committee are citizen-based accidental politicians, at least I should say in my case, right? So I congratulate all of you and thank you, Governor. I was Governor of the Northern Province when I recommended your name while you were in Australia, if somebody wants to know. I was not your friend. You were not my friend either. Right? It is not because I'm saying because you are successful. I took the risk at that time. 2019, I took the risk.
Success is depending on who you speak to.
Right? Right, that is okay.
You're getting hammered mercilessly.
We can play, that is politics. But international norms, international standards, the neighboring countries and all of us they may not come and vote for us, but they have given us the green light saying we are on the correct path, at least for comparatively. Right? If he had become central, he was asked to become the president. He refused to take it. So that's a different matter, debate that we should take it up.
So listen,
so I thank you. Right?
Accusation that he was appointed by this IMF, that's another.
I think.
Right. Okay, I have some technical questions, if I may, please. This, I want to know, so the impact on the domestic debt optimization on your balance sheet, and whether whether you expect some cash injection, capital injection from the consolidated fund at any point in the next 12 months.
That's also a very important question for the central bank and our the balance sheet. So if you look at central bank balance sheet, in fact, in terms of equity, it became negative in 2020, before 2022, in 2021, because of the very low reserves as well as very high domestic assets. Is with fund printing, all this, our balance sheet went down and became negative. So,
Governor, if I may, please interrupt you for a second. Could you give us a more broader explanation of what you mean by central bank capital, the balance sheet, so that we understand what you mean?
Yeah, I think that when you look at the equity of the balance sheet, there we have a reserves and the capital that I think 50 million, no? Infused capital originally 50 million plus billion, 50 billion, and then we have reserves that retain earnings, all these things, and exchange rate gain, or some of the things we retain. As a result, our value of the net worth of the central bank, first time in net worth became negative in 2021, no? 22. Towards the end of it, because we had large foreign currency liabilities.
So your liabilities were bigger than
the assets, and
so
then
the liabilities
currency depreciated.
LKR in LKR.
LKR an impact on the our net worth, and it became negative. So then what will happen usually in the process when we build up our resource and reduce the net liability position, that gradually central bank balance sheets would improve. As a result, now even after, before debt restructuring, it had become I think 600 billion positive before restructuring central banks. After restructuring, because we have IFRS accounting standards, we have to report day one loss on market basis of our holdings. As a result, it came down to, I think, still plus 6 billion, no? 72, 30 September 72 billion is still plus.
After the DDO?
After DDO. After the adjustment for mark to market of our holdings.
So that is, you got rid of your treasury bills and made them treasury bonds.
Treasury bonds, those are longer term.
That it was going to be down the road when you're going to be able to get the money back.
Yeah. Because when you value mark to market, those are much lower the value of the market. So there's a loss. One day loss that. As well, still it was.
So what was your day one loss?
I think 600 billion or something.
766.
766 billion.
So the loss to the central bank, if I may ask this question
Mark to
in
market
another
loss.
way, mark to market loss to the central bank that you had to record in your balance sheet was 760 billion rupees due to the domestic debt restructure.
Yeah, due to the debt exchange of bills into the longer term bonds. So that impact is there. So now the concern going forward is whether we would be able to recover and bring down or improve our balance sheet going forward. I think that's a projection. And even end of December is still negative, small positive. Still small positive because we still have larger liabilities.
So we are still negative, in negative territory?
No. It's still positive, small positive.
Small percent.
24 billion compared to 70 odd billion that we had.
Are you expecting it to go down further or
No, that depends on the market interest rates because our market value and also the exchange rate. The two factors. One is the net liability. If our net liability is larger, then currency depreciate means our liability is going up and then it will have impact on the equity. But currency appreciate is other way, so it will benefit us. Even the market interest rates compared to our bond portfolio and market rates coming down means mark to market loss would be also coming down. So there are certain different factors. So what we expect going forward, by end of this year, this IMF is also concerned about this. They are even in the DSA framework gross financing need, because of that there is a space of 6% of GDP financing is allocated for central bank and commercial bank, both recapitalization by the government if needed.
But I thought the IMF said like 6 billion or something, 5 to 6 billion dollars.
Yeah, 6% of GDP.
So GDP is what expected to be 90 billion?
100 billion during the program period.
In a program period or a period of time. So DFN based on the future.
So okay, so 100 billion, 6% is 6 billion.
Yeah.
So that's a large amount of money.
Large amount of money, but if needed. So that's why next year government has allocated 450 billion rupees. Over time, not in once, over a period of time.
But we allocated only 420 billion for that.
For this year. For this year. Only for this year.
So that's only $1.5 billion.
Yeah.
So that's for another $3.5 to $4.5 billion.
Yeah, I mean this DSA has provided that one if needed, because when you work out the DSA, you have to have a certain provisions, otherwise it will impact if there is a need, then if governments will have to pump in, then it will have impact on the DSA. So prevent that, there's this cushion, buffer is built up already under the sustainable analysis. So I think for the central bank, what we think, the IMF is recommending at least to wait end of 2024 this year. If still our balance sheet is deteriorating, then government should recapitalize at least to send the central bank balance sheet. But I think what our expectation, I think if we move in the way that we are moving, I don't personally expect that as government need to pump in extra whatever money for the fiscal side. We are hoping to manage at least, but still commercial banks may need, but I don't think central bank. And one other factor is that central banks traditionally they can run negative net worth. There are a lot of central banks all over the world. It is because they are different ability to print money and all this different kind of a creature. So central banks can run on negative net worth, other than commercial bank immediately collapse. You can't run, but central banks can. That's why we are not too much. We had even last year negative net worth. Only thing that will have impact on our counterparties. When we deal with other foreign central banks, other banks, they will ask, okay, you are negative net worth, so we don't want to deal with you. Those kind of issues could be there. That's why we need to strengthen in strong balance sheets.
This is more of a credibility matter than a
Yeah, yeah,
technical
exactly.
bankruptcy matter.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Fonseca, you want to say something?
No, sorry.
Okay, right. Then the related question, sorry, you wanted to ask?
No, the rationale in treating the FCBUs in the DDR or DRO or whatever.
Which are?
In the domestic debt restructuring. You see, you focused on the FCBUs, right? Foreign currency banking units. You see, what is the rationale? Because given the shortfall in revenue, and then our export income is dwindling, and then no FDI is coming in expected numbers. So, what is the rationale?
No, as far as my understanding, there is no consideration of SCBU debt restructuring. It is government foreign currency debt issued to the banks and others. Those are restructured. That's nothing to do with the FCBUs.
In the DDR.
Yeah, no, this is in the domestic debt optimization. One is a rupee part is already done.
Yeah.
The foreign currency, local law foreign currency debt, one is Sri Lanka development bonds, that's already done. That part is over. Then there are other components, foreign currency FCB loans by two commercial banks. The government taken loans from two FCBU units of the FCBU loans from the two state banks, and those also under restructuring. These are commercial bank loans given to the government. In all the foreign currency denominated, it will have to be restructured. That's also a small part of SCB loans given to the government by two state banks. That's under restructuring.
To SOEs also.
And also SOE loans, the CPC foreign currency debt. It's under restructuring. That was taken back to the government from CPC. That foreign currency debt of CPC, foreign currency debt of two state banks, foreign currency debt, and also foreign currency denominated sovereign bonds. All are part of the restructuring pyramid.
Today,
which has nothing to do with FTIs and nothing. It's only the bank's balance sheets.
Yeah, but then our commercial banks, as of today, what is the net exposure to international sovereign bonds?
I think this is about 1.6 billion, no? 1.6 billion dollars.
$1.6 billion.
Yeah, all the banks.
But they have made provisions for about
50%.
what, 40, more than 40.
Now, related to that, Governor, you said that the central bank may not need any capital injection from government this year. But what about commercial banks? I mean, do you expect the 420 billion that we allocated, would that be utilized by the two state banks? Would that be sufficient? What about private banks?
We have, I think, asked banks to come up with what are their plans if there's a day one impact or fiscal impact. So there are three things. One, they have already done asset quality review based on high interest rates, all this NPL. That's one analysis. Second one is already restructured SLDBs and FCB foreign currency loans. And third one, potential restructuring of ISB holdings at 1.6 billion and CPC holdings. All three parts. Then we have done some analysis and worked out and coming up with some estimates of what is potentially needed for next year with all completed. What would be the government requirement or government need to finance, especially based on our initial estimates. We hope that still up to the banks to come up with plans. We ask them to look at, we are given our analysis, and they have to look at whether they agree with that and whether they have plans to recapitalize or mitigate the impact on the capital. So I think initial expectation, I think what we see is only state banks may need some support from the government. I think other private banks looks like, I think based on our analysis, they should be able to manage.
Honorable Chairman, our analysis doesn't show any bank becoming insolvent or going into a negative equity position. Of course, they will go below the equity requirement, the capital adequacy ratios. But we haven't envisaged the situation where any bank is going into a insolvency or negative equity position. So it's a question of boosting up the capital through some recapitalization plan which the governor referred to. So we have also been concentrating on ensuring that the banks maintain adequate liquidity, because that is crucial in a time when a balance sheet is weak. What actually makes a bank fail is lack of liquidity, not so much the lack of capital. I mean, over a long time as capital as well. So I think we did the financial sector assessment and published it recently. While obviously the situation is quite stressed, compared with a year ago or year and a half ago when I rejoined the monetary board, where I thought that the situation was quite dire. I mean, at that point in time. So today it is not looking that bad. Of course, we are not out of the woods, and of course we are required to be going in the right direction without too much of reversals in the fortunes of the banks and the assets of the banks. But situation today, I think, is generally better than what it was a year ago.
Actually, important point is the liquidity situation is a lot better than what we thought last year.
Given the velvet gloved treatment of the banks, even in the DDR, so what I am saying is that why don't you look at the other options of, if there are weaker banks, force them for some merger, right? Consolidate them. Or otherwise, look at some special purpose vehicles to park the underperforming loans and then get some better management to look at it. You see, because these are options that are available, and if the central bank has
no, those measures are all being considered. We have given some avenues how they could capitalize, and one of it is the consolidation. So as Governor said, by end of this month, the banks have to give their recapitalization plans, the first 5 banks. So once that comes, that is board approved plan, we will be reviewing it and we will see how they have assessed the findings of the asset quality review, and after that go through the plan and like you said, consolidation, mergers, recapitalize. But what we understand is at this moment, if any change to happen, first of all the bank should have somewhat adequate capital. Otherwise, there won't be anybody who would like to take over a bank or have capital being put into a strategic partnership. So that is why, looking at the asset quality review that was done by independent party, we did the internal assessment, and that 450 was the maximum that came out of that study. But we don't anticipate that, because banks from that point on, that was like early last year that assessment done. So from that point onwards, there have been certain changes strengthening the balance sheets. Banks' business has improved, and also they also have improved their risk mitigants. So we think it will not go to that extent, and we should be in a position to manage with but this is one option. And also there are provisions to bring the insolvency laws, then have corporate workouts, and also look at syndicated loans kind of restructuring wherever they are. So there are many things, and also the asset management companies also something the monetary board some time ago kind of agreed, and we have informed the Ministry of Finance that this also needs to be looked into. We have given some concept paper to have this SPV type of arrangements also made available.
Now, while you give them those spaces, but only other thing is there are wide complaints coming from the SME sector. Most of them are unable to service their loans because of COVID and Easter Sunday and various other things with the economic collapse. Now these parate executions are going at a rate. You see, everybody is suffering. You can see the papers. All the you see, we have to at least find a way to give some kind of respite.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. There are two sides to that. Because you are talking about stability of financial institutions, and the honorable member is talking about the difficulties faced by SMEs, which is also need to be taken into consideration, and parate executions are happening. So how do you balance it, I think, is the real question, right? Because you are responsible not for the SMEs, you are responsible for the shareholders, or rather the deposit holders of the banks, right? So how, but this is a question, Governor, that needs to be addressed because it is real and companies, small companies are shutting down and their assets are getting auctioned off. And this is a real issue.
No, I think we in fact looked at these numbers and also we have asked bank to have what they call business recovery units with all the banks and help all the whatever possible ways SMEs who can recover kind of restructure. We have given them that the bank should take those actions, take them to business recovery units, and they have done a lot of work actually. What is highlighted is only number of part execution that was suspended for almost 4 years since Easter Sunday attack. So once, and what is coming up now are the people who defaulted and had problems even before that are coming first. Because it was suspended for a certain period now. If you compare to COVID, Easter Sunday attack, COVID, and then economic crisis, there are a lot of moratoriums given during that period, and this was also temporarily suspended. But it comes to a position as we experienced on the banking side. And also for the SMEs, in my view, for banks to provide support SMEs, restructure or give more new loans for them to be sustained, bank will not lend unless they have an ability to recover those who are not willing to pay. So why should the bank take a risk if they see there is no recovery mechanism? They will not lend to SMEs. It's good for the SMEs that who genuinely wants money, who genuinely want to restructure and ability to pay. Then banks will willingly restructure, provide that credit, subject that there is a way to recover that. But if you come to a situation there is no way to recover, for example, one good example is this pawning. For the lowest end of the people, the easiest way to go to bank and take a loan is take your jewelry and go to bank. Within 24 hours you get loans. But imagine a situation, if you come and say you take jewelry but you can't recover that. No bank will lend to these people. No bank will lend to these people.
Access to finance becomes an issue.
Become an issue. So this will affect the genuine SMEs and borrowers and even small time lenders. So banks will have to protect depositors' money, but they can't. This is not out of their profits. They have a responsibility to protect depositors' money. They have a responsibility to give them proper interest of their money that they have been given loans. And if they find they can't recover that money, I don't think not as even any deposit taking institutions will start provide that facility, and intermediate function will be weaker than strengthened. So that's why it's very important. People who are willful defaulting, there has to be a strong recovery mechanism. But if not, then obviously, even within the law, there's a lot of kind of things. One can go to the court and go to the Supreme Court and take some more time. So we see that is happening. So I think what we say compared to number of, say, stage 3 loans, 13% is about 1.4 trillion. Out of the 1.4 trillion, value of Paratex is only 38 billion.
1.4 trillion, what is the bank?
Stage
3
loans.
Stage 3 loans, 1.4 trillion?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is provided for?
Provided for. Partly.
If it is stage 3, Mr. Fonseca, don't you have to provide for?
It's provided because assets are there.
Net of security.
Net of security.
Net of security.
Provision.
So the question is, if they have been provided for, some provision has been made, is it not possible for banks to sort of proactively try to restructure these loans? And if so, are they doing it?
They are doing. That is what has been done from last year. From 1st of January, we have issued a separate regulation.
So you can issue regulations, but are they actually doing it?
So
that's the question.
We have collected numbers and we have seen those numbers.
Like how much?
But the only thing is the customer also has to go to the bank and get engaged with the bank. Now what happens is some customers, they don't go. They don't give the necessary information for the bank to assess themselves. So
but are there intermediaries who help those, say, SMEs?
Yeah, so that is why we have the revival unities to have some specialists there.
Which, in the central bank or in the bank?
No, in the
every bank.
Banks, yes.
So have you found out whether every bank has actually set up a revival unit?
Yes.
But not in Fort. I mean, these SME guys are all across the country, no? I mean, if you are in Anuradhapura or if you are in Matara, will there be an SME revival unit in Matara?
No, this restructuring is handled in a central way because otherwise it's difficult. But then if there is a branch and that branch information will be taken and that is how it's there.
But are you satisfied that they are doing it genuinely or they are doing it because you have directed them to do it?
No, so it is in their interest also if they can recover.
Isn't it bank interest to give them full this thing and recover, rather than it's a last resort for the bank. When there's no way that they can recover.
Yeah, let me put it in another way.
Is that after this asset quality review saga, I see increased foreclosures happening. You see, because only then they are becoming, because they have also been sleeping over some of these things, right?
Yeah, that was because there was a suspension of these actions for almost 4 years. 2019 onwards. That's why you see it coming up now.
Yeah, but then it is relative to the asset quality review of each bank. The foreclosures in some cases are very, very high. And then when they are promising businesses also.
Yeah, so the thing is either they have to recover it that way, if not they have to come to the government and get capital.
Yeah,
so it's either way. So
the government, you are saying the state banks.
Yeah, that's the thing. So first of all they have to give the try to do their business and and also just because they publish, they don't really resort to parate. So that is a process, as Governor said. So first they inform, then there is a notice like that. But what
sometimes you have to publish to get the will come into the bank in the first place, otherwise he won't come. So there are, Honorable Chairman, having been in banking, actually it is a bit of a myth to say that the parate is the way banks have to recover money. I have never known a single instance where through a parate the bank has fully recovered so it is actually in a way a last resort, but it is a useful tool that the bank has, which it uses to varying degrees to either even to restructure debt, to agree to a repayment terms to entered in court, basically, so that there is some binding So the parate, as Deputy Governor said, just because a notice is published does not mean that it ends up in being an acquisition. Because banks don't want to acquire those assets because they themselves don't know what to do with those. Because nobody buys it at an auction.
Yeah.
I can see, if you see the hit tags, you can see how many banks are putting properties up there, and then sometimes continuously 4 or 5 weeks.
But there are two related issues, Mr. Fonseca. One is there is an accusation, I don't know to what extent this is true, that there are internal deals, right? Some of these people in banks buy it for a song and then, resell it and so on, that accusation is there. And I don't know, as regulatory authority, whether you have looked into it and whether this is just a false
That's always accusation. They can complain. They can submit, they can complain to central bank if they are
have they complained? No, has anyone complained?
We haven't seen that kind of.
You have not?
No, that kind of.
10 to 15 years, we resisted bringing in this parate law. You see, because we have a lot of bankers have been pressing. Right? In Parliament, there was so much of resistance. But finally we gave in. Right? But then having given in, what we feel is there must be some humanitarian aspect to this. Currently, I see that it's being, too widely applied, because as a easier way to recover. But of course, as Mr. Fonseca says, maybe that's the last resort. But then not all banks are using it as a last resort, in my opinion. I don't know.
And my last question on that is, can there be some directive or some regulation? Now you said there is so much provided for 1.4 trillion, right? Can you say, well, you must at least 25% of what is provided for, you must actively try to restructure? Or is it that, you provide for 1.4 trillion, but they actually try to restructure only, 1-2% of what is provided for?
No, I don't think 1.4 trillion is provided. 1.4 trillion is the total of stage 3 loans.
Right.
So what is provided is that amount less the value of the security.
Yeah.
So
let's say
so that is
number.
about 40% is provided, I think.
Okay.
So 40% is provided.
Okay, let's say 1 trillion then.
About
say
600. About
sorry, the other way
600
around.
billion. Yeah.
600 billion. Okay.
So that is what is provided for. So your suggestion, Mr. Chairman, is to use that part to be
that part or some portion of that part, whether you can use it to restructure.
Today, but I would think primarily banks when it comes to that stage, they are willing to forego part, either the high interest component or even sometimes some part of the capital, provided the business is considered viable, because basically there is no point just kicking the can down the road. Some businesses are, unfortunately, for not necessarily the fault of the entrepreneur, I mean, it can be for a variety of other reasons. I mean, are no longer viable, and without liquidating the assets, which the entrepreneur himself can do in an orderly way if he so chooses to, I think you can come to a settlement with the bank.
Yeah,
so,
could we make a suggestion, Mr. Governor? I mean, could you consider, I mean, your research people, could you consider having some sort of ballpark figure even, this amount of what has been provided for, you must actively try to restructure.
As much as possible full.
But
you don't want to get, say, 600 billion out of that. If we say they are going to recover at least 10% of the 600 billion to Parate, it's a 60 billion. I don't think banks would be able to recover that amount of money even through all this Parate execution. So even that's not good for the banks also. So we are basically difficult to impose. Okay, you only up to this part and then use that part. We are encouraging them to, as much as possible, restructure, take a cut or something for the bank side also, reduce interest rates, and get the SME or client to restart paying.
Okay.
But then, if that is not the case, then that part of that activities will have to be recovered.
Okay, let me ask you whether this is possible for you to do or not. I do not know. Now, this is a matter of serious concern for members of parliament because we are representing people, right? While I appreciate the fact that you don't necessarily belong in our sort of scope here, is it possible for you to take look at how banks have actually progressed in restructuring SME loans?
Yeah. That we are doing, and we are collecting information. We are doing it.
Would it be possible for you to share that information with us?
Yeah, what has happened during last year, we can provide that information.
So
we have up to about 30th September, so we'll get an update.
When do you think you can do that?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks time? Just remind the bank.
In general terms, not individual cases.
No,
right?
not individual cases. But we want to see whether some banks are more active, some banks are not.
What we feel is if we go in this trajectory, this contraction of the economy will be even longer. Because all these failing businesses are just not small numbers. These very large numbers we can see because we are on the ground. We can see it's happening. So that's why at least we can look at after the debt is restructured finally, if you can at least persuade some multilateral agencies to come up with some refinance schemes.
That's already there. No?
ADB has already set up a guarantee institute.
No, so that is where the public, you are public finance people, the parliament, and your interest is the public. So I think the best solution for your side, if you are concerned and you address that, I think best way without asking depositors' money to be used to bail out these people, you have to use taxpayers' money. That's your authority. So that's where the ADB, all these things. That's I think the responsibility. You have a genuine interest, or public interest, public finance matter, and so
No, you can't capitalize, you can't privatize the profits and socialize losses, no?
No, then you can't ask the country's public depositors to bear that burden.
No, we are
You
not
can't
asking.
ask that also.
No, we are not asking. What we are saying is there is some balance, and we want to see if some banks are actually, going ahead and doing it, and some banks are not. That you can do. Mr. Vijay Singh, you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Honourable Member, I think just to recap some of those messages and also add to it. One is that we have to recognize that as economic activity will recover from, of course, the doldrums of the last several years, as you mentioned, we have to be cautious about not interfering with the appetite for SME lending of the financial institutions also. So making too many adjustments that make that access to finance environment unfavorable would make them turn away, completely risk off on lending to SMEs. So that's one thing also. As economic activity picks up, good SMEs with good business ideas who want to expand need to have that credit. And I think the worry would be that if the tools like Parate and others that preserve that access to finance environment are messed around with too much, that appetite could get affected. So that's one point. The second, I think, also to reiterate the governor's point, if we look at countries, the suite of policy tools that were used to support enterprises through crises, only one part was relating to the banking sector or financial services sector. I think there is a part that the government would have to look at around the ecosystem of support offered for enterprises to get that support to restructure, go into new businesses and so on, because that interest component, the loan component, isn't the only thing that could provide them with space to recover and grow. And I think the final point there also is that we have to look at the economy perhaps overall, where this churn in capital is, it's not getting lost, it's just that ownership is changing. So where one person has to sell off, there are coming in, and prior to this role, I was on the other side, and we genuinely saw new owners coming in, new businesses getting restructured, because as Mr. Fonseca also said, I don't think the banks necessarily want to hold on to this because it's a hold on to a lot of these assets because it's actually troublesome for them also. So I again, perhaps not all of this would happen smoothly and all at once at the same speed, but I think the onus on recovery of enterprises post-crisis can't entirely be borne by the financial services sector is the thought I'd like to. Thank you.
Okay, we have any other matters? No. Then there are so many, but I don't want to take up more of your time. Perhaps except one other thing, there's something that I want to ask. There was a recent statement by senior bankers that they should be their international sovereign bonds. I don't know whether we can go into this territory, but this is related to financial sector stability. So that's, based on that, I'm asking you this question, that they should be allowed to restructure like they did their SLDBs. There was a big news story. I don't know whether you saw that, and whether there is any what your reactions to that is.
So I think ongoing negotiations is difficult to talk about. This is highly kind of market sensitive and impact on other negotiations as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Governor, and everyone else who's come here today to update us on what is happening. Your job is not easy, we know that. we empathize with you. You see, our job is also very difficult, but we all have to try. So congratulations to the new deputy governors, congratulations to the new director of economic research. You have a very big task to fill the shoes of Dr. Harsha also. And let's continue this dialogue, and do let us know if there is anything that we can do. And we certainly will seek a change in standing orders so that we will become the committee that would be responsible to deal with the central bank. Thank you very much.